because
Yeah, exactly.
the
So,
knowledge that I'm going to teach you now, I know so well. So they might go a little crazy and be like, you want to just, but I'll try and
yeah.
explain everything
Of
clearly.
course, of course. Um, so um, let's
I like
see.
this.
Huh?
Sorry, you go, you go.
No, I was just thinking. What we'll do is we'll record.
Mm,
Um, I'm gonna have to listen through it anyway because I'll be working on my stuff and following the process that you give me.
hmm.
And once I've listened to it, I'll tell you if it's good enough to chop up into bits, into separate videos,
Okay, good.
or not.
Okay,
Okay, because like I know the standards of what these platforms require, so
yeah,
I'll know if it's good enough or not. Uh,
okay,
we can see how that goes from there.
perfect. Sounds
Awesome.
good.
So, and I've got is it Ableton? What's the free one? Audacity, and I've got GarageBand. So I don't know which one I should use.
GarageBand is better,
Okay.
just because you have more effects and you can do more with the audio than
Okay.
Audacity.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
yeah. So maybe like what do you want to do? Well, I show you the process of how to record. First of all, open GarageBand and use it, and then record the instruments into it.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. Well, do you think that's the first problem you need to address? Because I want to think of this like problem solving for you.
Yeah, so okay, so I know I've got to learn GarageBand.
Okay, very good.
So let me put this in the chat. So
Mm,
I've got to learn GarageBand and how to use it for quick stuff.
yeah.
I don't want to be like forever and a day. Like I don't do it to the level that you do it, you know?
Mm. No,
Um,
GarageBand is pretty quick. You can just open it and sort of get going, you know.
nice.
Mm.
So learn GarageBand, learn how to record at home. So
Okay,
I'll show you the space that I've got and
great.
my plans.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
and then I guess it's how to combine tracks because I'll be singing a separate track to playing the ukulele to playing
Okay, good.
the violin. Uh,
Okay,
like some of them I've done recordings where I've just sort of sat outside and I've recorded myself singing because
okay,
I don't want all of these 60 songs to be nicely done. I want some of them just to be
okay.
me having fun, but
Oh,
then
nice.
others I want to, so the stuff that I'm outside in the park playing a bit of music, I'd like to do the very quick garage band stuff just so it sounds okay.
Okay,
And there'll be a second step, which is me recording at home. And then there'll be a third step, which is me recording in a studio. And I'll ask you to do that sound engineering.
okay, yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Sounds really
awesome.
good.
Okay. And that's only going to be like 10 tracks. So,
Nice.
yeah, we'll see.
That's that's mastering. Excuse me. Mastering is easier than mixing anyway, so you have to deal with mixing first before you get to mastering. But the process basically is like composing or songwriting, then recording it down in a recording studio, then
Yeah.
engineering it, which is all the technical stuff, then mixing it, then mastering it. That's just the
Okay.
overview of the whole, like that's the five-step process you're going to take from composing the song to, I guess you could think of the sixth step then as releasing it, you know?
Yeah. Release, publish, market.
Yeah, exactly. All those things.
That's like the business side of getting it out there. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
All right. So give me this 5 steps or 6 steps and just explain what each of them is.
Okay, good idea. So composing or songwriting is when you first compose your song, or if you're composing classical music, you're writing a piece of music that you think is great, and you're working through it. in terms of a song, same thing. You're fulfilling a structure. Actually, that's important. You need to fulfill a structure of some kind, no matter what genre you are. Otherwise, you're not going to have an audience. You can be structureless all you like, but who's going to listen to it? But you know that you're working on songs. Does that make sense? Does that,
That's
let me know if the
perfect.
definition. Okay, good, good.
So yeah,
Um,
so think like this little section is like a 3 minutes, and it's just talking about the phases that we go through.
okay, great. So the next one then will be recording. You're going to, you've finished composing. You're absolutely certain of all of the elements of your song or composition. You are not composing in the studio. You go to the studio and you put down your songs, or you record in your house. You record them with software through a computer, or in very rare cases, without a computer through analog equipment. But that's way more expensive these days. And that was actually done almost up to 2000. There
Yeah.
wasn't computers came after that. So that's basically the recording process. It's like taking a record of what you've done. Obviously, in that process, you strive for the best takes possible, and you want the attitude of you don't want to fix it in the mix. You're not going to fix it down the line. It is going to be as perfect as possible so that the people down the line, if that's you or someone else, has the best material to work with. Oh my gosh. It's funny how I can explain this. I hope this is making sense.
Yeah,
Um, okay, did that section make sense? Good.
that made
So,
sense. And I've got the caption so I can take the text and you can use that text to break it up if
oh,
it's
that's a
good
good
enough to
idea.
publish. Yeah,
Okay, great. Didn't even think of that. Sorry, you'll have all this in the middle.
that's fine.
Um, I sort of, I think I skipped, or maybe, split recording into, I suppose you could see it as different ways. In the olden days, they had recording engineers and like engineers who were the lackeys of the recording engineers. But these days, recording and engineering is kind of the same thing. You're engineering the sound in the studio. So that's really one step. Apologies. I might have to revise my numbers. Um, yeah, I'm thinking, why did I split that?
That's
But
okay.
the next,
Carry on, Broads. Carry on.
okay, the next step is mixing. That, in my opinion, is the hardest. Some people think recording is the hardest. I love recording because you're getting passionate performances. But mixing is when you're taking everything recorded and using super nerdy, sciencey, everything you can to basically combine all of the waveforms together and make sure every instrument sits in its correct place, making a nice balance of frequencies and instrumentation. So at that point, everything makes a difference. Your arrangement will make a difference. Your scale, your key, your time signature. You want to think about, sorry, I'm thinking in terms of composition there, going down a rabbit hole. I know you're composing, but you would have already done that. So you're combining all the sounds correctly and making sure everything fits in its own space while still sounding like a cohesive part of the whole. Um, Hopefully that makes sense for mixing.
Hmm.
Okay, and then mastering is the final stage that they call like the polish. You're shining the track. Usually they send it to a specialist engineer who's just a mastering engineer. Not always, you can do it as well, but they check, they're like the final ears, and their job all day is to make sure every track is flawless. So they're pretty good at pinpointing things that you may have missed or you've become accustomed to because our ears grow used to hearing things.
Yeah,
And they, of course, what you told me earlier, they constantly master tracks, so they're continuously referencing against tracks and themselves. They're not mixing the individual elements. They're just taking the whole track and making sure it sounds good on the radio or, on folk stage or whatever the genre is.
on the cell phones, in your car.
Exactly. On every device, that's really important. That's become really important in mastering in the last 10 years anyway.
Because there's so many different devices and they all have different qualities of speakers or microphones or yada yada yada. Okay.
Exactly. It's good that you know some of that because mixing is like taking the frequency range of an instrument, which is basically the fundamentals and harmonics all stacked on top of each other, and then carving enough space away from everything so that all the other ones fit together around it in a level of importance that you have to decide. So in your case, in most cases, vocals are the most important thing in
Mm.
most modern music. So you'd have vocals and your instruments would probably be supporting you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard, is it right that when we're mixing, we're trying to get the idea of a physical space. So even
Oh,
if I
yes.
recorded it in like a dead room with no
Mhm.
sound,
Which
I'm
is ideal.
which is ideal. You still want to get this idea that you add the reverb and you place
Yes.
things in stereo to get this sort of internal
No, you're
landscape.
totally right.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a good way of seeing it, like a landscape. I often think about it like that. Reality is stereo for me. I'm constantly thinking about how I'm going to EQ it.
coming here, what's coming here? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the main thing is you're right that you have to record it as dead as possible so that it can sound as real as possible on recording. Because if you have too much reverb on your recording, you can't get it to sound like it's in a real reverb space on a recording, which is quite weird and ironic.
Okay.
But that's what you want to do, and I'll teach you how to like dial in the right amount of reverb, and a lot of it is subjective. Some people like to be swamped in reverb. Some people like the tiniest amount because they want to hear themselves really dry.
Mm.
So reverb is like putting yourself in a space. Everything will have a different amount. Think of it like a 3D space going backwards and up and down. Excuse me. The vocals will be sort of right here, and then
Mhm.
further going back. Imagine if you had two guitars, they'd be there, and then if you had keyboards and organs, and then maybe the kick and the bass as well are with the vocal. They're very important in most
Okay.
modern genres.
You want to bring kick and bass to the front?
Yes, usually in all of our mixes, certainly in electronic music and pop
Yeah.
music, and
Okay.
now in rock music as well. But um, in the 90s, they had guitars a bit louder than they do now. When I listen back to Nirvana songs, they probably would have turned the drums up a bit now, even though they still sound really good.
That's so
But
interesting.
yeah,
So it changes like the styles change with the times and with what people want to hear. Oh.
exactly. In the 80s, there was this famous, like, huge reverb, like, kind of that bit was part of the 80s and people loved it because it was invented then. And then,
Mm,
at the end of the 90s, people got sick of it. They're like,
mm.
this is just belonging in the 80s now, and that's it.
Awesome.
Show you how to dial that in. Unfortunately, the thing about your mixes is you're going to have two to three or maybe four tracks. You're not going to have like 160 that we'll deal with. So
Hell no. I wouldn't know where to start or what to do with that. I wouldn't know what to do.
it's just well, you kind of do the same process, but you're only dealing with your tracks, and that's much easier to mix. And to be honest, it's easier to make less elements sound huge because
Yeah.
if you clutter a composition, think of it like a huge orchestra. And whereas, you just have one string section playing the same note on its own while the whole orchestra is resting, that's just going to sound bigger because it's one note on its own.
Yeah.
I often think of mixing as like orchestration, have to
Mm,
make sure everything's fitting in its right place.
okay.
I was listening a lot.
I think
Sorry.
no, it's all right. I think at the most complex mix, I've got these cute songs, something like the Beach Boys, right?
Like
And
the Beach Boys.
yeah, they're fun, good
Mm,
songwriters. So
mm,
like I love the idea of a solo singer in the front, and then Quinton reproducing the harmonies and maybe making a Quinton choir that does the backup, which could be quite cute.
nice.
Like
Yeah,
you
I
saw
like
that sort
that.
of stuff in the pandemic where these
Hmm.
talented musicians would have like 20 little thumbnails and one guy would be doing everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
totally.
that's like the most extent that I can get. Uh,
Okay.
and I'd be surprised. I might be able to get that done in July and August, you know. I'm using
Mm,
this as a test to get used to recording, to get used to GarageBand, to get used to a bit of mixing and some mastering. But I'm
mm.
not like I don't want it to be like I'm not becoming a sound engineer, you know,
You just want some skills to get some ideas down.
and to sound better than what I sound like now.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely, I mean, this has been a long journey for me. What I do now mixes, or my normal mixes, is a bit crazy, but I've developed it over a long time. So,
Yeah. Why is your
and you're,
normal mix a bit crazy?
oof, there's just so much going on. There's first of all 160 tracks, and then I'm routing
Um,
them to like sub mixes, and then I'm driving them all to 0 decibels and clipping the tops of the waveforms off them. Because it's just an easier way to sound loud in modern times. And then I'm
okay.
routing those to sub mixes again. It goes down series of sub mixes. And then I have about 256 external effects to make everything sound like this room and space you're describing, where every single element gets its own, whatever the effect is.
Effects. Jesus
Even if it's
Christ.
the exact same effect, it's a new one in each element, so it just sounds super clear.
Jesus Christ. That's a lot of work.
It is, and then mixing it, and usually, sometimes we don't always master our stuff, it's half and half. So,
Oh, so you sometimes stop the process at mixing and you say it's
mhm.
good enough to publish and send out
Oh
like
no,
this?
sorry, no, I don't think I was clear enough there. Usually, so when you're mastering, I could do it, or someone else could do it. I
Yeah.
could send it to like the best guy in London, for example.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
sometimes we do the mastering process, and sometimes we send it out to someone else to do.
Okay. Gotcha. So you can't skip any of those 5 stages.
I wouldn't recommend it, except for maybe, the ones you're saying you're recording in the park. You could
Yeah.
play your thing and then bring in the video into GarageBand. Oh, I don't know if you can. You can extract the audio some way anyway.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I'd have to extract the audio, work in GarageBand, and then probably put them into iMovie and
yeah,
do it
exactly.
that way, something like that. But
That's what we do for our social media. That's what I
okay,
do.
yeah, I know. You use
Um,
iMovie, Garrett. Do you use iMovie for that, or
yes,
yeah,
iMovie and CapCut, kind of going
yeah,
between them.
yeah? Okay, cool.
Uh, um, Yeah, so in that case, if you're doing a one taker that you don't want to separate everything, you can just go straight to the mastering process, um, and then do the best you can. It's not ever going to sound as good as if you could separate all the elements, but
Yeah,
that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a live recording, not a studio recording. There's kind of a difference between live recording and studio recording.
yeah,
Um, Someone told me this before that recording in a studio is like literally perfecting everything, and
yeah,
recording or performing live is perfecting the moment because you can't be perfect at everything. But the moment is gone, no one's going to remember. So,
yeah. I like
uh,
that. I like that captured sound around the corner idea of like live folk singers and songwriters. Like, I don't want my stuff to be super squeaky clean and too
mhm.
polished. Like, I want it
Yeah,
to sound like me and that people just walked around the corner and found me plunking away and, you know,
and jamming. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that actually really works, to be honest. You're covering both scenarios. You're going a good range, like raw, authentic content and then studio produced content.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, do you want to give me a overview of GarageBand?
Yeah, let's dive into GarageBand, as ChatGPT would say. Let's let's leverage
Let's
GarageBand to
leverage GarageBand for acoustic awareness. Amazing acoustic awareness. All right,
yeah.
GPT.
Let me open it there. I guess I can share my screen with you as well.
You should be able to.
Oh, good.
Can you share?
Yes.
Can you share?
Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay, awesome. So I basically found the icon for GarageBand and double clicked on it. I don't know if you've ever opened GarageBand before. Oh, you have. Okay. You know how to do this.
Yeah.
We're just gonna choose a new empty project. Now, have you done this process before?
I mean, like the last time I used GarageBand was when I was a music teacher, and I would literally just sit my laptop in front of the performers and record it through mic.
Okay.
But it was like, 15-year-old boys doing their rock band stuff. So I would just take a recording so that I would be able to watch it later and grade them and give feedback and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, nice.
That's the max I've sort of done with GarageBand.
Okay. I think since then they've at least made this where you have to select one of these. And in your case, because you're going to be recording audio, you're going to select mic or line. You can see here it says audio in less smaller font underneath.
Mhm.
MIDI is if you're connecting like a MIDI keyboard or any other wacky MIDI instrument, and that will then trigger the sound in the computer, but itself won't have any sound. It's just a controller. Drum rack could be handy actually if you wanted to have GarageBand has built-in patterns. If you
Mhm.
want to have an auto drummer fill out a pattern, and this is if you're recording guitar or bass. So if you're going ukulele, I would do this one, guitar or bass, even though it's guitar or bass, but it will fulfill the same function.
Yeah. And then for
Um,
violin,
oh, violin. How are you recording that through a microphone or a pickup?
I don't have a pickup, so I'm just going to use I'm using the Yeti microphone that I've got for everything,
Okay.
basically.
Oh, perfect.
Like the quality's okay.
Hmm.
Like when I bought it ages ago, you said, "Oh yeah, the quality's going to be fine. You can even do your own recordings and stuff on it."
Yes, I do remember that actually.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to use unless I'm going into the studio and I'll be using whatever they've got.
They'll be able to sort that out. Okay, in that
Yeah.
case, you only need microline because this guitar bass is if you're bypassing a microphone and you're going from directly from the guitar output into the interface, basically. So you could actually take your ukulele pickup and go straight into the computer
Okay.
by not having a mic. In that case, you're going to do guitar or bass. But if you're using your Yeti, you're going to do microline.
Okay, cool.
The
Um, and I
sorry.
know that my uke it's an acoustic electric.
Mhm.
I've got a cable, but I've never connected it to my Mac. So I would need to get just a little adapter to plug it into the microphone, right?
Yes, you'd have to get an interface. And if you don't have that, I guess, your mic is already, you don't need to buy anything if you just use your mic system.
Okay. Okay.
But an interface is handy because you can actually boost the quality of the mic sound as well. You can run the mic through the interface as well.
Yeah.
So you might want to think about that.
Okay.
Even the cheapest ones in the market, there's a red one called Focusrite. It's about £100 here, but they're like if we've released songs with recordings through that and nobody
Yeah.
knows because they're just
Okay.
so good.
Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe
But
after this July, August thing, I'll have a better idea of what I can create on my computer.
mhm, yeah, exactly.
And if
And
I
for
need to
now,
spend.
sorry, I keep cutting across you in
No,
stupid
it's fine. I
tangent.
was just saying if I need to spend or if I some money or if I need to buy some equipment, if I want to keep doing it or if I'm happy just going to a studio and getting that, that sort of
Oh,
stuff.
actually, yeah. If you're going to a studio and they can take care of it,
Yeah,
you might not have the need to have one at home.
yeah. Okay.
Good things to consider though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cool.
Okay, so I'm just in that case going to create a mic or line channel. So obviously I'm pressing create here. And then it's going to create these things. Now, instantly, you can see it's picking up my computer mic and it's picking up my voice. So I'm just, oh, most important, when you're recording for mixing, I would recommend using a click track. I know some people are against it, but when you're mixing more than one track together and things don't perfectly line up, you have to start pulling it together with computer stuff, and that's worse than actually just playing it all together in time with no computer adjustment, you know.
Okay. So find the click
Certainly,
tracks of the songs and work with that.
yes, and I can tell you how to do that. You just go to a website called TuneBat, or just go to Google and type in key and BPM of whatever the song is, and it
Okay.
will take you to a website that does that. So,
Amazing.
a lot of pop songs are in 120. That's why it starts 120 BPM.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to record and see what it looks like. Oh, I should probably explain. Sorry. I'm pressing record to just test the level of my vocal and make sure it's not clipping. And by clipping, I mean going into the red here. It doesn't appear to be, but we'll see. Testing, testing, testing. This is a recording of my voice, and you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. I wanted to show you an example of clipping. Oh, you can't zoom into it like you can in Logic? That's mean. Um, well, I guess it's just a limitation of the program. So at the top
Yeah.
there, oh, it didn't clip. If it goes into this white line, you're basically, it shouldn't be that loud. But I think we're all good. Just gonna play it there. Everything is in time. Excuse me. So now, imagine say you've recorded your guitar, or sorry, your ukulele on this track to the click track, which will help you stay in time with your vocals.
Mhm.
Um, so we're going to just, how do we create another track? Plus, we do the same thing. Can I move them around? Excellent, I can. So we're going to go ukulele. And same thing. It's ready to work. It's ready to record. Your when you before you turn on GarageBand, I recommend you plug in your mic because it will just pick it up automatically. And if you don't do that, it becomes a bit of a, oh, I meant to now connect this. What are you doing to me scenario?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Um, but in any case, you can go to the settings and you can go to audio and you can select your input and output devices there
Okay.
if something goes wrong. Yeah. Now, when you're playing, or sorry, when you're how many other tracks are you going to do? Just ukulele vocals,
And
maybe some
sometimes
backing.
violin, sometimes some
Okay.
violin, sometimes some backing vocals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll just create another track then, call it violin. And I'm labeling these by double clicking on them. I should have told you that. Sorry. Should
That's
probably say
okay.
every move. And then it goes to that track. I unfortunately don't have those instruments here and probably would suck at playing them. But so that's kind of like the recording process. Now I can zoom in this way. So you can go to every word if you want. You can chop the waveform into little bits.
Mm,
So I pressed Command T there, but you can go to edit. Oh, it's not there anymore. Maybe it's only a shortcut. I use Command T and that just splits the track.
okay.
And so I might do it again there. Command T, split the track. You don't like that take, it's gone. Yeah. Oh, it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Undo, you know. Or say you want to keep this down here because you're not sure just yet.
Mm,
This is going to mute it. This will solo it, by the way. So you'll only hear that track.
okay.
So you're going to do another few takes on top of it and then decide, oh, I like this one more. I'll delete this one eventually.
Yeah.
Um, So it has all those capabilities. I don't know if you do that or if you prefer to just run it in one take and go that way.
I'll probably do a bit of this, to be
Uh,
honest. Like getting a perfect take on a 3 minute song is a bit insane.
It's just scientifically impossible.
Yeah, I'm sure it's impossible. I
I
don't-
highly doubt even people in the 90s were doing it, some people were doing it line by line,
Yeah,
you know. Uh,
yeah. No, there'll be something where I'll be like, yeah. Anyway, don't worry about that. I'm
okay.
used to that cutting and pasting and stuff from podcasting.
Okay, great, great, great.
So I
Uh,
got that idea.
um, this I would call the editing stage. So that would replace the engineering stage because you've recorded everything and then you're editing it, but you're not mixing it just yet because you're deciding which take you like, you know.
Mm,
And same with the violin, maybe, or your ukulele, you decide you like the first four bars, the next one's not so great, you're going to drop them in again. Or another thing you could do is copy and paste the same section. So the shortcut is to hold Option and then click and drag.
Oh, cool.
Yes,
So
and
if the chorus is perfect, I can just make the second chorus and the outro chorus and all that.
good thing you're mentioning there. I could talk all day about this stuff, but we always do that, Quentin. There isn't a single song that doesn't have the best chorus take in every chorus. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point? Certainly in terms of our pop dance music, it has to be as punchy and as clear as possible. Maybe in the 90s, if you were Joan Osborne, you could get away with doing two more aggressive choruses at the end, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
God
joking.
is great.
What else can I say to you? So the recording process is pretty simple. Did you hear the click track going when I was recording there?
I
Would
didn't
you like me
hear
to?
it, but I can imagine that in your headphones, you're hearing the metronome ticking.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, I am. Actually, yeah, it's not picking up the sound of my headphones, of course, Birdie. It's only picking the sound of this mic up.
It's fine. I get it. I get it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I want to pretend we've recorded ukulele and violin, right?
Mm,
Because now we're going to kind of go on to mixing. If it's just those three things.
hmm
Another thing you can do, I wonder, oh no, you can't do it here. That's again mean. In Logic, I can separate, each tiny bit and reduce the volume to be all the same.
Okay.
It doesn't appear you can do this here. But that doesn't really matter because you can still edit it. Like I said, you can still split each single one, create a new track, and then put it to whatever volume you want here. Oh,
Mm,
these are the volume controls, sorry. So this, I guess, is where mixing would begin. Is that the first thing you want to do is adjust the volume, right?
hmm
So I always put vocals at the top so that I consider it the most important in my mind, and then every other instrument gets less important as it goes down. So maybe ukulele will be ever present, so that will be slightly more important than the violin. And the violin won't be, you know.
Yeah.
So actually, something I just did there, deleting a track, is by pressing the backspace button. Uh, and same, sorry, deleting a region, this is called, with backspace button. And then same with the track. I'm actually clicking it so it turns light gray and then pressing backspace.
Okay.
Um, so then, yeah, you want them all to stand separately. As I mentioned earlier, you want their frequencies to combine well so that your vocals sound really clear and present, and that the other instruments also sound like they're supporting you, but they're not in the distance. They're driving the rhythm along nicely, you know?
Mm.
Does that make sense?
hmm
I hope I'm not saying silly phrases like, over and over again.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're not that stoned.
Yeah, I think I've become very good at this even since we did the connectors thing with Joe 2 years ago, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Did it. But it's helped me speak more concise and clearly in lessons and stuff.
Yeah. Good. Good.
Oh, something to consider here. If your microphone is too loud when you're recording, this adjusts the sensitivity of the mic. But I would just leave it where it is if it's fine, you
Okay.
know. And you can see here again, this is another quick way of getting to the input if you want to change it, but I don't think you should. Now, plugins is where we mix. So we'll get to the master in a while. That's like at the end. But plugins is where you mix. Oh, good. And each channel has its own one. So you're going to need to select each one up here, and then the settings will change in this box down here.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
That
let's select vocals. Sorry, didn't even give you a chance to answer.
that's fine.
Okay. So this can scroll down. I'm using the two fingers on my touchpad to do that. I don't know if you have a mouse or whatever.
I
So
got a
here's
mouse.
you got a mouse. Okay, good. That's even easier.
Yeah.
So
What's a no
mixing.
what's a noise gate? Sorry.
Oh, where was that?
You see in the middle, below monitor.
Ah, okay, good. So if you want to turn that on, you can. Oh, it adds a plugin. Very good. Basically, it's if when the recording is silent, like you're not playing anything, microphones are so sensitive they can pick up air molecules moving. And if
Mm,
that's the case, you when you are silent, this plugin is a special type of compressor actually that's tuned to when it hears nothing happening, clamp down the sound. It's
mm,
literally called clamp to zero, and it becomes absolute silence. So
gotcha.
instead of this like hiss, it's like, and then as soon as you start playing again or singing or whatever, it'll open up again. It's called.
Okay, cool.
Now that's for recording. Oh, oh, you can actually edit it after you record as well. Oh, that's the only parameter. Fair enough. Basically, you can turn it on or off.
Yeah. Oh, Garageband. It's not gonna have
Um,
everything.
no, no. But to be honest, if I would say if you're approaching a situation where that's happening, something is not going right. You should not really have that happening in the recording, even if you've got everything cranked up to the max,
Okay.
because technology just is just so good now and products are so good. It usually means something isn't broken, like a lead or a cable or a mic.
Okay.
Um, but good question, actually. Monitoring, I should go through these all, sorry. Monitoring is when you turn this on and you can then hear whatever's running into this vocal track through the headphones as well. Um, so say if you wanted to hear your vocals while you're recording, you can hear them in your headphones as well as you singing. Now, Brody doesn't like doing that for some reason, but most other people do. They love to hear their vocals in their ears.
Okay, but you do it with the click track.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
honestly, my philosophy is the sound is coming from my throat, so it's going to be as loud as possible there, and I'm projecting it outwards. What do I need to hear it in here for? It's
Mm.
already inside my entire skull. It can't be any louder, you know?
My body is a
Um,
resonating chamber.
mhm.
So,
Made of bone, and you know, we're literally perfect singing instruments, human bodies,
exactly.
which is interesting. I've never described that before. Wow, you're bringing out cool phrases out of me. Thanks. Um, so yeah, but it might be more useful if you wanted to say listen to your ukulele while you're doing your vocals, you know.
Mm,
But having said that, I don't think it makes a huge difference. I'm recording with none of this activated and just the record, and it sounds really good to me. So
okay.
I guess everyone has their own way, but I'm trying to teach you the most efficient way, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and feedback protection. So feedback is when you're too close to the microphone. Um, if you have two microphones that are close to each other, sorry, so you probably won't have that issue. You don't have a mic and another mic. You're just going to one mic.
Mhm.
Um, So a plugin is basically what we use to mix music. in a studio, they'd be separate units that look like this blue thing here that says, can you see compressor?
Hmm.
It would look like that in reality with knobs that you can turn all physical and that you can touch and control. But they're using mathematics to simulate that, I guess.
Mm.
Exactly that.
Mm.
I'm just going to remove this noise gate. So if you want no plugin, which I'm doing now by taking this noise gate off, I first of all click to the right of it, or sorry, I move to the right, hover on it, and you can see it gives me these two arrows, which allows me to click and then go no plugin. Now I'm just going to shift these up here. So they always recommend, well, it's kind of standard practice to first of all EQ your voice. So this is like me going into the studio and getting a separate analog EQ that has all these controls and sticking it in here so I can affect your voice to make it sound better, basically. Sometimes you have to make things sound quite artificial to make them sound real at the end, which
Okay.
is weird. Think of it like, that you're speaking or acting, and then you're speaking in received pronunciation, which sounds weird to you, but the audience is going to hear it like normal English.
Mm.
Okay, so the first thing to do is we need to clean up the track. We need to make sure there's nothing happening underneath your vocal frequencies. Male voices start about 80 hertz, which is around about ABC note. So you want to go there, and we're basically going to filter out all the sound happening below it, so it's not affecting the mix. So I'm putting the EQ on there, and how I do that, how I create a plugin is, can you see it becomes slightly dark gray there
Hmm.
when I'm hovering? Now I click on it, and it will bring me up this list of plugins. So I'm going to first of all go to EQ. It's the most important one in my opinion. Then we go to channel EQ, and then we click on channel EQ. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, good. And then you can see here, there's these things at the top. You have a few nodes. I think there's eight. So you can affect the voice frequency in eight different ways.
Hmm.
So you can either, I'm just going to use this one as an example. You can either boost the sound. So at 100 hertz, which I'm not sure of the exact note, um, you're going to boost the sound. And this here on the side is the amount of decibels you're boosting. So
Okay.
25 decibel boost at 100 hertz is ridiculous, and I'd be slayed if anyone saw that. But it's just to show you.
Yeah.
And same thing, we can cut the sound, it's called, or reduce the frequency at that point. Now, so that's basically what you can do. You can boost or cut, and we're going to try and shape your voice by carving all these frequency ranges to make it sound really nice. And in the case of your version, you want the radio friendly polish. So
Mm.
as I said, first of all, we're going to click this one here. It's going to turn red. This is called a low cut filter. I hope that all these names are not sounding like jargon, but we're going to bring it to basically roundabout where your voice or male voice starts at 80 hertz. So I actually brought it to 60. You can see the exact frequency there,
Mm.
58 hertz. The reason is if I bring it to 80, it's going to already start cutting some at 100.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I see that.
okay, good. So everything is not quite as exact as it seems in music, but this filter is going to basically silence all the sound underneath those frequencies from about 60 hertz and below, which we
Okay.
do not need in our voice. That is where bass guitars, double basses, kick drums, tubas, and this kind of thing live. The instruments that are playing the root note of the chord of the entire band or orchestra that you're in live down there. And male vocal starts between 100, female starts about an octave higher. So how we get an octave is multiplied by two. Female vocals start at about 160 hertz. Don't worry about that mathematical stuff. And then, we'd have what I normally would do. Oh, this is something that might be handy. You can click at the top here and draw in the a loop cycle basically. You can activate it on and off here or by doing this. And that allows me to loop, so I can just play it.
Uh,
Sorry, s- silence now. Now we're gonna, so I turn on the analyzer by clicking analyzer, and it's gonna follow the frequency response, it's called, of my voice. So we'll see now, I'll play it and we'll see what my voice looks like speaking that. Could you see this kind of peak happening around here?
yeah,
So that's really why I wanted the cut below that, so it wasn't affecting that one. Um, and now there was what we call a plosive. There was like an explosion that jumped up at the end there towards the. I'll play it once more just to show you. That
like
shouldn't happen.
okay,
Yeah. So this is taking care of that. And
okay.
ideally, I'd record that again. You don't want that kind of
A
stuff in
cleaner
your
one,
recording.
yeah. Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
But I did do that on purpose to demonstrate to you. Now, normally, I'm going to give you a few other quick tips for the other ranges. You could see what it looked like. My voice kind of weird, but in modern music, they like really bright vocals. So we're not going to go crazy, but I'm going to click this purple one here, and this is called a high shelf, and it's going to take these frequencies and lift it up a bit.
Oh, okay.
Now, okay, no, we're not going to do that. Sorry, that's not what I wanted. So it's going to actually start affecting everything from 3000 hertz all the way up there, but it will sound really pleasant. So I'm just going to play to you what that sounds.
Well, I can't hear that because I think it's playing through your
Oh,
headphone.
oh, can
It's
we
okay.
try? Are you sure? Oh, dang. Oh,
It's okay. I get the idea. I get the idea.
okay. All right. Oh my gosh, it would really be more beneficial if you could hear it. Um,
Hang on.
let let me check if my GarageBand settings can go to Zoom.
Let me see. And I'm looking at the Zoom settings to see if I can hear.
I wonder, let me just stop sharing and see, did I tick
Yeah.
share sound?
Oh
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that's it.
I'm
Hey.
so sorry.
It's okay. I get it. I get it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Let's
Yeah.
hope you can hear this now. And you can see it's getting louder
I
as I
can hear
get
it.
closer. Oh my gosh, this whole time I thought you could hear it, Quentin. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I was following the sound waves. I was following.
Oh, no, man. You tell me if that happens again, please. I'm so
Yeah, yeah, for
sorry.
sure. It's okay. No, don't stress. Don't stress.
I guess everything up till now wasn't too sound based, it was more information based.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I'm just going to, what we always do is we compare to the processed. This is called processed when you're adding processing by EQing it or compressing it or anything, giving it reverb. It's all called processing. And I'm just going to compare unprocessed and processed so you can hear what cutting the low rumble out and exciting the high frequencies sounds like.
Okay.
So we're just going to bypass it, which we can do here at this little on and off button, or we can do inside the plugin itself with
Okay.
this on and off button. So I'll leave it on screen and show you. We're going to go off first. You can see it's getting louder as I get closer. Now on. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. Could you hear that the second one
I can
felt
hear the
closer to you?
pops and the plosives and everything. Yeah.
Good. And it felt a bit to me like I was closer in the second one, where
Yeah.
it was more the treble here was a bit more excited and there was less rumble.
Okay.
Now, so what we want to do, this range here at 3000 kilohertz, that they say 3K, I guess, we'll make it exactly. You can type it in there. And
Okay.
we're going to boost that because that's also really the openings of our ears, where the sound hits our ears is like 3K. So it's
Okay.
the most sensitive range in all of human hearing. and it really helps you distinguish where every instrument is or what's important, or if the singer is nasal and aggressive, you might have to turn some of it down.
Okay.
But in most cases, it needs to be, you need to boost it. And
Okay.
maybe I boosted it a bit too much, but now let's hear it, first of all, without. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And now with. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. What I
Okay.
really want is this difference, sorry, with no 3K. So let's try no 3K. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. I'm going to over exaggerate it so you really, sorry, so you really get it. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. That
Mm.
really felt like I took a massive step forward, and the whole time I'm consistently present at the front.
Yeah.
So, I won't go too crazy, but I think these 4 points are kind of essential. And I wouldn't go, nothing beyond 5 decibels. If you're boosting or cutting 5 decibels, you probably need to re-record the take.
Okay, cool.
And there's one final range. I just want to play again. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. Usually around 500. It's what's called, it could be boxy. This is called mid-range frequencies. And I want to just dip them a little bit so that again, my voice feels like it's standing forward that tiny bit more. So let's just do it with first and then without. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And then without. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. That one's a bit more subtle, but
I,
when
I
I'm
can
dipping a
hear
bit,
yeah, I can hear the difference, but I can't describe it. I don't know how to
okay,
describe it, but I can hear the difference.
okay, good, good, because that's the most important thing. We do use like common words, like I'm dipping that frequency range basically to cut the boxiness and the
Mm.
nasalness. Um, it sounds like there's too much of that resonating in my voice, but when it's gone, it's much more controlled. That frequency isn't spiking so high all the time. It's kind of sitting there with all the other frequencies like a happy family.
Okay.
Silly, silly description, but and
No,
same with these, right? That's why I'm boosting these so that they're up with the rest of the frequencies and they're all sounding good. Because if we leave them untouched, you're going to sound dull and lifeless and like you're at the back of the hall kind of thing.
yeah.
And
Okay.
that's like, that's basic setting for vocals. I might actually send you this file later so you have something to
Yeah, that'd be
tweak,
great. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
that's a great idea.
and also could be resourceful when I get this together. Okay,
Exactly.
great. Now, compressors. Brody used to be addicted to compressors. Brody has 49 of them virtually.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
so it's like the weirdest concept in all of music. Oh, you've got the whole channel strip here. That's what that is. But basically, it's like taking a sound and turning it down, but within a prescribed sort of time. They call it attack and release. So how fast it's going to clamp the sound and then pull it down and then release that clamping. Um,
Okay.
but Brody is not a big advocate of compression anymore. Brody does not use compression in any Beat Bakery music or anything anymore for the last 5 years.
Oh, why is that?
Um, because I basically found out that it's the same thing as saturation. A lot of these effects are linked, but they're split to be marketed and made money from.
Mm,
But compression, limiting, and saturation are all basically the same thing. And you can control the vocal levels much better with saturation. And it sounds clearer and punchier and louder and more full and rich, in my opinion. So compression will take this waveform and try to equalize it, right? So it's going to take this big one here and try to push it down as much
um,
as the rest, but that's going to create a lot of digital artifacts or
mm,
just distortion. Even analog ones create distortion
mm.
because of the fact it has to react to like 1/600th of a second and try and push it down to the
Mm,
rest of the sound. But because of digital audio, no, you don't really need to do that. I
mm,
can just chop all the sound to the same levels. I can put them on different tracks and make sure the volumes match so that I'm not using this compression process to equalize it. I can manually equalize it,
mm,
and then I will saturate it, which we'll come on to soon,
yeah.
so that it does the same or better job, in my opinion, than compression. But you might want to play with compression and see what it sounds like. So I'll show you what it does, right?
Yeah, yeah. Show me what it does.
So I'll explain each one. The threshold is the volume at which the compressor will work. So if you set it too high, it won't hit the sound.
Mm,
Let's
And
just
you
see
can
if it's
see it's
working.
getting louder as I get closer.
Okay, down here it's indicating that how many each dot is like a decibel, how many decibels are being pushed down basically.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Yeah.
okay.
So it does sound a bit more equalized. Um, but as I say, my version is like a bit more, bit cleaner sounding.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. At the beginning of your journey, you might just want to play with it, you know.
Yeah.
And the ratio 1.8 to 1, this is the most complicated part of it. So when it goes over the threshold, when it basically activates the compressor, the ratio is going to decide how much it is going to turn down the pushing down part of the waveform.
Okay.
The higher the number, the harder it is, the harder the more it will push down. So let's listen to 30 to
And
1.
you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
It's
Okay.
been
So it's
basically
like very compressed.
it's been ruined, it's been fucked. You can use that, you know.
Yeah, it's
But I was just doing
awful.
that to show you.
Yeah.
1.8 to 1 is really gentle. I wouldn't go above 4 to 1.
Okay.
So most classic analog compressors are 4 to 1.
Okay.
I can't get it exactly at 4, but maybe you can type it in. Oh, you can do it this way. But anyway,
Anyway.
so the attack is how fast it will start compressing then. Let's just show you an instant attack.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Same
Mhm.
effect. You're just crushing the audio. Um, Slow attack where it's letting a lot through before it starts working.
And you
Mhm.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
It's
Mm.
so slow it hardly compressed anything. So you would normally start around, 20 to 50 milliseconds. So let's try 40,
And you
38.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Mm.
Yeah, and then gain is because because you've compressed the sound into the smaller thing, you might want to turn it up so that it sounds the same when you activate and deactivate it.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Okay,
Now let's hear.
interesting. Wow.
That is the most complex thing. Now, I don't really want to go. I don't think I should explain to you the inner workings of each thing right now, because that's enough. But let's just hear what it sounds like with not
And
on
you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
and then on.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
So
Mm.
it does unify things a bit, and it's not a bad tool. It's just not my preference anymore.
It's not what you're using now.
No, um,
Yeah.
because,
Okay.
you know, as I say, it's just for the simple fact that it's slightly cleaner. And in dance music, we're all pushing to be as clean as possible and as
Yeah.
punchy as possible, you know. So once it's compressed, and again, when you're looking down here at the compression thing happening, if you've got more than three blue dots flashing, you need to question your life choices. You need to just realize you're over compressing it, basically.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do, if it peaks too loud, like this last one here, there's nothing really that's going to fix that other than re-recording it.
You should just re-record that and at a
Mhm.
lower. Yeah. Okay. So,
That Am I
yeah.
frying your brain here? Are you okay? You
No,
need a
I'm
break or
okay. I'm
okay.
okay. Is it better to compress some things or do you just not use it? Like, for example, is it good to do compression on the voice, but not compress the violin because I want all the tones of the violin. I don't know.
Um, to be honest, the thing that's most sensitive to compression is vocals.
Okay.
So you could compress the other instruments and get away with it a bit more
Yeah,
because they're quite, I know violin's not a percussive instrument, but there is percussive sounds happening when you're contacting the bow.
totally, totally.
Um, but vocals is really weird. It's like the only instrument that's like it, and there's nothing else,
Mm.
you
Okay.
know.
So
Uh,
maybe consider compression for the voices, but don't really worry about it for the other instruments.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, but if you can get away without compression, that's your ideal scenario.
Yeah.
However, you might want to just play with it to even understand it when you're first starting this journey.
Mm,
Because as I said to you, I was so addicted to it. I thought it was the greatest effect ever. I could just auto level everything.
mm.
But now those compressors are gathering digital dust on my hard drive.
Oops.
So, um, let's do, yeah, let's do saturation would kind of be the next thing, which is sometimes called distortion, overdrive, anything in that realm. Um, so what I did again, sorry, I should be speaking this through.
That's
Go
okay.
to the plugin section, and then what does this do? Oh, that just collapses it. Um, so I'm clicking there because I want to choose saturation, and it's in this category, distortion. And I think let's just go distortion.
Okay.
Maybe we'll go overdrive first. Overdrive is like less distortion. So drive is just basically how many decibels of gain that is going to cause the distortion. Uh, the tone is kind of like an internal EQ. And what this is doing is filtering out the audio at the top, not the bottom, at the top of the frequency spectrum. So, but it doesn't like that. We would take the tone all the way to the top. We want to hear all the frequencies. And then the output is if it's usually too loud, you're going to turn it down.
Mm.
So let's hear, we've turned it up by 6 decibels. We might have to. Let's just hear it raw.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Now without.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Now with.
And you
Way
can
more,
see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Right. So
it's way more
if you,
boomy, and I hear a lot more tones on that top level.
very good. It's exciting all those upper harmonics. That's
Yeah.
what's happening. And if we take the compression out and we just drive the saturation more, it's probably going to sound
And you
better.
can see it's getting louder as
Mm.
I get closer.
That sounds
Mm.
way better than compressing it and having it down at 6 decibels of drive.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Yeah,
Not
nice.
way better, but definitely cleaner, you know.
And you can
Yeah.
see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Maybe pushed it a bit hard there. Um, yes, okay, so just for a bit of fun, let's try distortion. Distortion is going to be more aggressive. So you can leave if you're not sure if you like that effect, you can just turn it off here and
Mm.
leave it there and put a new one underneath and decide if you like it and then
Mm.
remove it or whatever. Let's see what distortion sounds like. Once again, I want the tone right to the top. I want to hear all the frequencies.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Much more aggressive.
Mm.
Probably wouldn't use that one that much on my voice like
And you
that.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
I think I would stick to overdrive in this case.
And should I just play around with these different distortion things and see what sounds good?
Yes, I mean, why not try play with all of these? Now you might not. This one here, amps and pedals, is for simulating electric guitar environments. Could be
Mm.
fun. Could put some distortion on your uke. Why
Mm.
not?
Mm.
Play
Why
with
not?
it. We'll get to delay in a minute because that's an effect rather than, I guess, saturation is an
A
effect too.
saturation. Yeah.
Yeah. Distortion. Yeah. Bit crusher. It's like reducing the resolution of the waveform. The waveform is normally 32-bit bloating, they call it, but it's
Hmm.
going to take it, well, it's only got 24 maybe in GarageBand. So it's going to reduce the sound. It'll sound
You
robotic.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
You might not find a place in your music for that, but who knows? An effect, you know.
Maybe for like
Uh,
80s songs or something, or I don't
yeah, yeah, exactly. Clip distortion. Honestly, don't know why they have it separate because all distortion is clip distortion. It makes no sense to me.
Okay.
I should really to write a letter to GarageBand and be like, you know that all distortion is clip distortion, so why is there a separate? Phase distortion makes sense because it's basically getting two waveforms that are so close, they're so identical, and separating them usually by one sample so that you can hear this weird phasing sound. Let's see what
Okay.
it
You can
sounds like.
see it's getting louder as I get closer. You can
Interesting.
see it's getting louder as I get closer.
All
Oh, I
these
don't like that
effects,
one, but it's
you know,
interesting.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't use it for what you're doing. Um, it doesn't look like I can create more there, but for some reason I can hold. I can just keep going. Okay, at the
Okay.
bottom, when you think you've run out, you haven't quite run out, you know?
You just keep adding effects and it'll pop another one in.
Yeah, I think there is a limit. In
Probably.
Logic, there's 15, so it's highly likely there's 15 limit here too.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool.
But, you know, if you need to get more than 10, re-record the take, you know? It's
Oh,
that kind of philosophy. If you're over
gotcha.
editing it, something is wrong with the recording, you
Okay.
know?
Okay. So is there like a sweet spot like between 5 and 7 that is okay? And then after 7, you're like, ah, let's re-record it.
Yes, but it also depends. You know, if you really know what you're doing, you can do 10 as long as it all sounds like it's working together. You
Yeah.
just have to be careful um, when I'm processing our vocals on our songs. I'm trying to do as little digital process as possible so that it sounds as natural as possible at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Um, you know, that's why I was delighted we could take compression out of the chain. I think that made our vocals sound better. We didn't have it running through this mathematics of trying to compute this thing, you know. I know it
Gotcha.
sounds silly to say that, compute this thing, but in
No,
the
I get
studio,
it.
you
So
can run
much
it
is
through.
like mathematical these days, right? Because it's
Mhm.
everything is a software now.
Basically,
Yeah.
um, one thing I didn't think of, do you want your vocals tuned or not?
Jesus Christ. Do you mean like auto tuner?
Well, you know, it might shock you, but nearly everything is tuned these days. I'll at least show you
Really?
the, I'll just at least show you the option, right?
Yeah, show me
So,
the options.
um, pitch shifter. Oh, I don't think you have it here. There's no tuner. Okay, fair enough. Vocal transformer, no. These are cool. Vocal transformer can like make the formant of your vocal. But that's just an effect, you know. You won't be using that in your thing.
That's so silly.
You can't then tune your vocals, but that's fine. I don't
Okay.
think it needs it for what you're doing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Specialized. You won't be using, I should probably run through all of these, right? Probably won't be using that unless you have electric guitar. Delay we'll do on the voice in a minute. We've already dealt with distortion. Dynamics is all different types of compression. So
Uh,
remember earlier I said
oh,
noise
there's our
gate.
noise gate. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's a type of compressor. I just, as I mentioned before, would try and minimally use them anyway.
Yeah.
EQ, we've gone through, always use the channel EQ. Don't use that one. It's just a waste of time.
Okay.
Filters like in the effects realms that I'd probably put on a synthesizer or something.
Hmm.
Probably, you know, fuzz wah. It's like creating a Jimi Hendrix kind of sound. cool, but maybe you could use it on your uke.
I could see what that sounds
Imaging,
like.
yeah, exactly. Imaging is like deciding how wide your mix is this way, left and right. Now, modern mixes, they try to make it as wide as possible, they call it. They want it
Oh,
wide and huge and deep and all these words.
why?
But
Why do they want it that way?
just because it sounds like what you were saying earlier, you can actually imagine yourself standing in the room where these people recorded, or the fake room where they recorded,
Yeah.
and imagining you're right there, that their sound is right there, that the guitar is slightly left of you, the bass player is slightly there, the singer's right in front of you, you're watching them, and the drum is right behind the singer. So, and
Okay.
because also thin, narrow mixes don't sound as exciting, and I honestly think it can influence the like chargeability of a song. If it's very narrow, it's not going to sound modern and exciting. Whereas if it's wide, you're going to feel like immersed in this humongous 3D field of
Mm,
sound, maybe even 4D field of sound.
mm.
So you could play with that. Direction mixer is only really helpful when you're moving thing to the left or the right speaker,
Okay.
or headphone. So,
So I
I'm
could
not
move
sure.
the violin a little bit to the left and the ukulele a little bit to the right and have the singer in the middle.
Yes, actually, and that's something I should have mentioned here. Sorry. This is called a pan pot, which does exactly what you mentioned. So here we're going to go. Uh, Ukulele is now fully left, violin is fully right, and
Okay.
vocals are fully center. Now it's going to sound mad, but you'll hear.
And you
Yeah.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer, closer.
So that's what really wide is when they're touching the edges of left and right and the center. Those are like the three focus points. If you don't those have those as a reference point, you can't tell what is wide.
Mm,
Um, so I'm just going to show you, put them all back to the center, and I'm double clicking on that and pressing 0,
mm,
or you can just click and drag.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer, closer.
Super narrow right here, Now, when you have your instruments doing this and your vocal in the middle, it's going to sound really lush.
mm.
And something that's just occurring to me that we would do, or I would do if I'm recording, say, a guitar and a vocal, right? But in your case, the ukulele is the guitar. We would double track the guitar and pan them extremely hard left and right, like I just did, maximum you
Oh,
can go. So yes, I highly recommend you do this because it is going to sound enormous then. You're going to have this really nice vocal keeping the center pinned, and then your ukulele massively wide supporting you behind you. And then I wouldn't do that with the violin. Mm, You could, and then pan it maybe halfway.
mm.
The full pan is 64, so you could go 32. But it depends what you want. You might only want one violin, and you can keep it close to your vocal and maybe kind of
Yeah.
change sides every now and then.
Yeah.
Um, but you definitely want the main rhythmic instrument like a guitar, or in this case, the ukulele, recorded double and panned hard, because that's going to sound really impressive.
Okay, cool. Yay!
So glad. Sorry, that should have really been in the recording and production section, but
That's
it's
okay.
okay.
That's okay.
Same with the panning. It should have been at the beginning of the mixing stage. You do volume, then panning, then you deal with plugins.
Mm,
So actually, you can see here now that I've gone down to our violin, we haven't put plugins on it yet, but that's okay. We'll get there, yeah.
yeah.
Let's just, do you want me to run through all of these?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. So stereo spread is kind of gonna fake the same thing of having two instruments, two recordings of the same instruments. And the reason why it sounds good is because you're never ever going to be mathematically perfect. The two takes are going to have slight differences in their playing. Obviously, I want you to get them as close as possible, please. But the slight differences, millions of fractions of seconds that humans can't hear, basically, is going
Mm,
to create phasing differences in the waveform. And that is what creates the wide sound when
okay.
they sound slightly different. We do this in our choruses for our songs where we have one main vocal and then two left and right panned hard again. So it sounds like this enormous wide vocal. So you
Mm.
might want to consider doing it to your vocal too. But
Double the vocal and pan.
actually, in this case, it'll be tripled because you have one in the middle and one
Oh,
left and right.
holy shit.
But yeah, it's a lot of work. And it's a really subtle effect because you can't have it high in terms of volume. But I would only do it on choruses because you don't want the
Yeah.
whole song. You
To be
know,
like, rah. Okay.
um, my composition teacher said this to me. He's like, if you start forte and with semiquavers, where have you got to go? You know,
That's really good. I like that.
you've got to start small and then grow and then come back down and have tension and release,
Yeah.
it can't just be cacophony from the beginning. So that's what you're saying there is good,
Okay.
our verses, you might maybe listen to one of our songs. Most commercial modern songs do it. The verses are small and narrow, and the
Mm.
choruses are big and wide, you
Mm.
know. So this will fake the effect basically. Lower
Okay.
intensity. Yeah, doesn't look like there's too many parameters on it. Modulation is, you could use this on almost anything. It could be subtle, it could be in your face. These are like
What
different
does it
types of,
generally do? What is modulation, like the whole group of these? What does it really do?
it's like more subtle effects that are would be considered effects like reverb in the reverb realm. But
Okay.
what it's mostly doing is splitting the sound and getting tiny variations from faking two separations.
Okay.
So a chorus is basically doing what I'm describing with your ukulele, but this plugin is replacing that. So we're
Okay.
just going to go full, and I want to hear what it does to my
And you can
vocals.
see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can
Yeah, now with no chorus.
and you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
You could hear how wide the chorus made it sound because it's literally creating two fake copies of me and
Mm.
delaying them one so little that our ears can't perceive it.
Okay.
Anything under 40 milliseconds, our ears can't perceive as coming from two different sound sources. So it's kind of faking it, and
Mm.
you can make it crazy.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
That's
You
a bit
know,
much.
way too crazy. I wouldn't, and even the rate, all of that stuff unnecessary. I would go with the subtle settings if you're using it on anything.
Mm.
Ensemble is like multiple choruses together. So even crazier.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you
Mm.
can see it's getting
Although that sounded more controlled, ironically.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
You might consider if you want a little effecty section or there's a solo of a song that you want to replicate, you could
Mm.
drop one of these effects on it. And, man, if you're not sure about anything, we can have zooms and you can say, what do you think of this effect?
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Yeah.
Flanger, they're all slight variations of the same thing. It's kind
Okay.
of, um,
and you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
but this has got a more jet-like effect.
Yeah, I could hear it doing
So
something.
that's renowned for. And if we increase the rate,
You can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can
yeah,
It's like an 80s action movie, like, I'll be
exactly.
back.
The Beatles didn't have these effects even. They had to do it
Uh,
by manipulating tape machines, but in the 80s they just all made these effects in boxes.
it's crazy, eh?
Um, will I go through them all, or are you finding
No,
this
I've
a bit
got an
boring?
idea of it now. Question,
Yeah.
when I'm doubling a track, can I
Yeah.
just double exactly the same one
Oh,
and
very good question.
reduce the volume a little bit? Or is that gonna, do I want to put a slightly different equalization on it, for example?
Yeah, so it's not a great idea to double something because when there's absolutely no difference in the sound, it's going to collapse to mono, which is super weird, and I'll show you exactly how it does that. So I'm just going to copy this oh, exactly here. So we're now going to first just listen to this one on its own. And you can see, oh, let's take the flanger off, take all the plugins off, sorry. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. Now this is the exact same file, right? So we're going to mute the top one, but I'm going to pan one hard left and one hard right. And you won't believe that it would sound exactly the same. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. There's no
Okay.
difference. So it just sounds. You can see it's getting louder as I get closer. Because there's no
Interesting.
difference, it sounds mono. It has to have difference to sound stereo. That's a really good question. That's quite advanced. Well done.
Why, thank you, sir.
So this is why it's a bit annoying, but you do have to do each take separately. And in the case of our vocals, when we're doing a chorus three times, it can get a bit tedious, but the payoff is worth it, you know?
So you re-record your vocals,
Yeah. It-
re-record your guitar or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Holy
I
shit,
wouldn't.
that's a lot.
It is a bit, and maybe you don't want to do that, you know? Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's good to bear in mind, and maybe I want to, maybe maybe I'll pick like five songs that I love that I want to really play around with. And
okay.
like, so there'll be like 45 songs that I'll just record, do a basic EQ and get them out. And then
Hmm.
five that I'll really play around with because it takes time to do one song, you know?
It does, and especially if you're double tracking, because you're going to have to
Yeah.
listen to the original track and try and be as close to it as possible, you know. So it is even harder than just trying to lay down two separate tracks without paying attention to each other, because you can just do what you want, you
Hmm.
know. If you're double tracking acoustic guitar, you really want to be strumming the exact same fucking way on every goddamn note, you know.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, maybe you don't want to do that. And also, you can use this plugin here, the direction spreader, to fake it instead, or chorus to fake it instead,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. And I'm just showing you everything I know. Maybe I don't too much. You can
Um,
adopt from me what you think is right, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I'm sure that once I start playing around with GarageBand and listening, I'll go towards the things that my ears feel is right for the sound and for the song, and I'll go
Hmm.
in that direction, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Should I just show you the two other things that I consider mixing, or have
Sure.
you had enough?
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So what you need, so that's basically like the non-effects part. The by effects I mean like delays, chorus, flanger, reverbs. Those things are all considered effects, but EQs and compression are more considered like utility tools. You're like cleaning up and controlling the sound. Delays and reverbs are affecting the sound radically, you know.
Okay.
You can hear a reverb, but if you didn't know what compression is, you may not be able to hear it, you know.
Okay.
Or if you didn't know that you should cut the lower part of the EQ, you wouldn't know it's there, but you
Yeah.
could hear reverb because it's obvious, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so we're going into that section basically, and what you want is a subtle delay and a nice bit of reverb.
Yeah.
And Logic has loads to choose from. You might decide you want some songs really dry and you want some songs really wet.
Mm.
Let's go delay designer. Oh, and you have controls here. Dry is your original
It's
signal. And you can see it's getting louder as and then wet is and you can see it's getting louder as I get closer, get
okay.
closer. It's
Wow.
actually a bad example because it's just speaking rather than melodies. And then you can choose the
Yeah.
feedback amount. And you can see it's getting louder as I get. I would never have that much wet going on.
Yeah, it's a
And you can
lot.
see it's getting louder as I get closer. You want this feeling that it's creating space behind whatever it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like
not
that
up
felt
there.
like it went from a room to a hall.
Yes, there you go. Right. And that's because I'm reducing the wet amount. The more wet, the closer it comes basically to the to your ears.
Okay.
Um, so, I'd go quite subtle on that because you want the feeling that's in the hall. And then we're going to go reverb after that. And Space Designer is the best in my opinion in Logic. So length is how long it is. Point 1.3 is pretty good for a vocal. Dry is like you want some of your dry vocal, and reverb is basically the wet. Quite simple, but
Yeah.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can
Wow.
see it's getting louder as I get
so
closer.
kind of the same thing, right? You never want delay and reverb to be swamping over your main vocal. You always want your main vocal really clear and present, and the delay and reverb supporting this feeling of space behind it. Same
Hence
with your,
Space Designer.
exactly. And it sounds quite nice, actually, Space Designer. And when you're putting the instruments in, I would give them a bit more reverb than your vocals, you know. But it
Okay.
doesn't have to be a massive amount more or less. You can just make it less, and then it'll slot nicely behind your vocal, but still work together.
He's-
Let's listen to that
And you
once
can
more.
see it's getting louder as I get closer.
I know the this is
Oh, it's
it's
a
very
lot.
kind.
It's a lot to take in, eh?
Will I stop now? I mean, that's pretty much it. Maybe we could do
Okay.
the mastering on a different session or later or something. Or...
Have you got the energy?
Yeah, yeah, I can keep going. I could talk about this for 8 hours.
Okay. Let me get some more water and let me just text James and then I'll be happy to carry on.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Uh,
Will I stop sharing for the moment, or will I just leave
well,
everything as it is?
just give me 2 minutes and
Okay, perfect, perfect.
yeah. Okay.
There's no rush, man. Take your time. I know, especially when it's a new topic, you have a lot of activation energy burning. So, um,
Listening. I'm active listening.
no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, man, let us know. It's all good.
I just need 2 minutes, really.
Okay, perfect.
Whew. Hey,
My throat got so dry there
I hear you. I hear you.
speaking.
I've got water and I poured myself a drink.
Oh, nice. What are you drinking?
Just a vodka and Diet Coke.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it's been so fucking hot here.
Mm.
Like the nights have been 24, 25 and 50, 60% humidity.
Yeah, it's insane. 31 right now here.
Is it a Jesus
Yeah,
Christ?
it's like
Have you,
Zimbabwe.
fuck man, have you got aircon in your place?
And
No,
like my room is like insulated to fuck because it gets goddamn cold at winter. So it's just
okay.
like, but it's okay, I'm not really unhappy about it, to be honest. I
Yeah.
like the sun, so
Oh my God, me too. It's just at night when I'm trying to sleep and everything is sticky and the sheets are heavy and yuck and I just don't sleep very well when it's like that.
I found the solution here is to like take my duvet out of the cover and sleep only in the duvet cover.
Yeah.
This tiny, thin little sheet.
Yeah, yeah. I have a sheet and then a duvet because I
Okay.
don't like to wash the duvet cover like regularly, so I'll leave that for 2, 3, 4 weeks, but I wash the sheet
Okay.
under it more. But
That's a good idea, actually, saving on the washing.
yeah, and you don't need to wash your anyway, whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
It's funny how we think about this stuff as Zimbabweans, hey?
I know, yeah.
Other people are like, whatever.
Why do you even think about that?
Hmm.
Um,
Okay, so I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the transcript, I'm going to run it through ChatGPT or Gemini or something, and I'm going to ask it to give me the steps that you've talked about.
hmm,
And then within those, I'm going to take the transcription with the notes and tips and don't forget this and put it within each of those sections.
hmm,
And then maybe make a checklist. So that's the way that I can run through, okay, import this. Well,
hmm,
extract the audio, import the audio to GarageBand in this thing.
hmm.
Do this, do this, do that. Because like the first few times, it's going to be hell of a complex.
Yes, and as I said to you before, I'm so intimate with this. It's like words flowing out of my mouth that you may not
Yeah.
remember by the end of the session.
No, I'm gonna have to watch this again and do it like step by step.
If you want, we can do it together. I can help you, but whatever
Oh,
works
we
for
could
you,
do that. We could do that. Yeah.
and it doesn't need to be today. I know already it's burnt a lot of energy because it's very intense.
But it's exciting as well. It's like it's fun.
Yeah,
And I'm a
it
musician
certainly is to me.
and I'm an artist. So like I like learning about the stuff that like it's more than the performance. It's like refining
Mm,
recording, which is a great thing for me to learn and I'm excited about it. So
mm.
don't stress. So
Okay, good.
so I don't even remember the steps, but where are we up to?
Um,
We've done the mix.
yeah,
The mixing is adding effects and EQ and stuff, right?
yes, and delay and reverb.
Yeah.
I can see here there's two controls for master, echo, and reverb. I would not bother using them because these have more controls inside of them. So you can get better controls doing it this way. So we've done it only on vocals. You'll have to go through it and do it on ukulele and violin. The most important thing with these two is removing that bass rumble because neither one of them are huge bass instruments.
Yeah.
Although I have seen a bass ukulele and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want
And
to
it was
get
very
one.
fat and low. No, no, no. I think that's for bass players.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's the most important thing. And, we can talk about when you play them to me. If I think something needs EQ, I can help you through that.
You know what
And
I'll
once,
do for the
yeah.
next one? I will prepare a song with
Hmm.
these three or vocals ukulele, and then
Mm,
you can help me with that.
that's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk you through the process of how I do it.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
I should have thought of that today, sorry, but whatever.
It's
So
fine.
what?
It's fine. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we're making it through. Once you've mixed every track how you like it, you've decided this one should be left, that one should be right, that should be center, all that kind of stuff. You're then going to go to the master channel. So this is basically coming down on a desk into one fader from three separate faders where you can control everything to one fader where it's all controlled with only one fader. And you're then going to add the master effects, which is like similar effects we can add on a channel. We can do EQ, compression, saturation, reverb, which you would probably never do on a master channel, but it can be done. Um, uh, Output. Okay, yeah. So you can see they have master echo, but oh my gosh, no, we don't put that on master channels. Effects like chorus, flanger, delay, reverb, they don't go on masters
Okay.
because you can't control them that well and they need to be controlled better inside the mix. Once again, if they're going on the master, something is wrong. You need to re-record. So I would click, you're never going to use this effects thing. You're going to go to output because that's what is going to output into reality. I would check the EQ again on yours. I would do the same thing because you're not going to have a bass instrument. I would just activate it and leave it where it is. So it's
Okay.
cutting anything 30 and below that makes it through from higher up the chain. If we decide that, say, this frequency here needs a little boost in mastering, we're doing like 1 or 2 decibels of boosting or cutting.
Yeah.
It's very subtle. And
Because the
in
majority of that stuff, doing the big changes is on each track.
exactly.
And then mastering is, oh, we just need a little more of this and we just need a little more of that. Okay.
Exactly. And ideally, if you need a little more of anything, you have the mix. You can just go back to the mix and tweak it so you don't have to do anything here. That is the best scenario, other
Okay.
than this low cut. That's pretty common in
Okay.
all masters as a safety.
Okay.
Um, and then again, Brody's not a big fan of compression and the type of thing you're doing. I wouldn't put it on the master, certainly not. The
Hmm.
exciter is like a saturator, but it only deals with certain frequencies from this number and up to the top.
Okay.
So let's just have a quick listen to it.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
And without it,
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
so it's
Okay.
basically adding 14% more harmonics. Let's just go crazy to hear what it
And you
sounds
can
like.
see it's getting louder as I get closer.
You can hear that was too lispy sounding then. So
And you
Okay.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
now that will actually have a greater impact when you have a few instruments playing with each other.
Hmm.
So I'd recommend putting Exciter on, and they have yet another compressor, giving me double heart attacks. I wouldn't bother with the compression because I just don't think it's beneficial to the sound at that stage anyway. You could
Yeah.
argue for it back down in the mix, but not here.
Gotcha.
If it needs compression, it's kind of the same thing. It's like you need to go back to the mix and fix it because that means there's too many stray peaks flying up here, there, and everywhere that you should have tamed earlier, basically.
Gotcha.
And then every mix needs to end with a limiter, which is another type of compressor that Brody is okay with, because it basically acts not like a compressor. It has there's no attack and release time, so it doesn't take its time to start working and then have a
Yeah.
time to end. It's instantaneous. It's like as the sound begins and ends, it stops
Okay.
and does its job, and it brings everything up way in volume so that you'll sound like radio ready. Let's hear what it's
And
doing.
you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
So basically turned this entire thing up 10 decibels, and
Hmm.
then it caught this big peak at the end and chopped it off. And you can hear that it sounds much smoother than compression, just instantaneous chop.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Mm.
Let's just compare that with compression.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer. And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
It just sounds more rough or something, but the limiter sounds cleaner and
And you
punchier.
can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
Mm.
In my
You
opinion, the
gotta
attack and sorry, keep going.
you gotta watch it on the consonants and the plosives, hey?
Oh yes, when you're recording, can you try make some kind of pop shield in front of your mic?
Yeah, I can. Okay, cool. Okay.
Like you could do it with a hanger and something. It doesn't need to be
Yeah,
fancy.
something
Or you could,
simple.
or invest in one if you really want to.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like you said, if you're going to record at home. And you're right,
I'll write it
with all this,
down.
yeah, it's really important to get it right at the source because if this consonant is baked in like that, there's nothing I can do. So this is a case for re-recording it and doing it
Gotcha.
well, you know.
Gotcha.
And I would only
Okay.
just use these three: EQ, exciter, limiter, wouldn't bother compressing. And that's pretty much it, right? And then you can, I'll save this track. I'll call it Quentin template.
Mhm.
Save it on my desktop. How do I bounce out the audio? That's the only thing I've never done.
You mean export it?
Yes. Oh gosh,
Oh,
that's silly.
share. Go into share.
Oh, okay. Export song to disk
Yeah,
or song to music, I guess.
I guess.
No.
I don't use Apple Music though. iMusic.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. Export song to disk. And then you can
Okay.
choose here. I would
Ah,
always choose wave, right?
yeah, yeah.
And you want to go in here and you want uncompressed 24-bit. So CDs are actually lower quality than what we can make in our computers.
Okay. So we want to save it at top quality and then we'll export what is most platforms won't upload a wave file. So do you need to do an export for general consumption and publishing?
I would say if you're uploading it to like Spotify, they would want a WAV file, but if you're doing it to like CapCut, it depends how
Yeah,
long the file
exactly.
is. They're going to have a limit. So you could go, I'd have one, whatever you do, I'd bounce one highest quality as possible so that you always have it because
Yeah.
you can then convert it online later on. You don't have to open this session again. But then if you want MP3s, you want to go there and you want the highest quality. So
Okay.
256 kilobits per second.
Okay. No,
Um,
it makes sense to me to save, like, it's like when you're using Adobe products like Illustrator, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, save it at the biggest because you can
mhm,
always bring stuff down and compress or,
exactly.
yeah, okay, cool.
And you want to name it, test track. I won't press export now because it will
Yeah,
export, but you can just
yeah,
imagine a press export. Um, and then, of course, you can decide where it's saved.
yeah.
That's a
Hey,
little annoying again because in Logic, I can just click, I want WAV, MP3, AC. I can select all of the options and it'll just do it all at once.
I love it. And it gives you a folder and everything's in
Yeah.
there. And yeah, I like the sound of Logic, but I imagine it's quite an expensive
Well, it's
software.
£200. I don't know how much it is in Canadian.
Yeah,
But if you're not going to use it every day, there's
yeah.
another free software called Reaper that does something similar.
Okay. I'll
But I
start
would
with
just stick with this. Stick
I'll
with this
start
one,
with GarageBand to learn it because
Mm,
it seems quite easy. The interface
mm,
is clear. I get the dashboards and everything.
mm.
And if people were like, "Oh, could you do something to my songs?" I'd be like, "Ah, fuck, Brody, what do I download?"
One thing I forgot to mention, there's a thing here called library, and there's like pre-effect chains, they call them, of plugins. So if
Okay.
you want, say, a 60s vocal chorus, I'll double click on that. You'll have to make changes. Yeah, continue, whatever. And then I'll go back down there. We're going to click on track, and it's going to have this then instead. So let's hear what it decided.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
60s chorus might sound cool. Dance vocal, let's double click on it.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
You know,
So
but
there's shortcuts, presets.
yes, like
Okay.
preset chains, they call them. But you don't really have control then over every single element. You know, I probably wouldn't use any of those. Bright vocal, let's have a look.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
That one was the best, but with the compressor on it brought up the
And
noise.
you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
We had something similar already, so I'm just going to undo it.
So
Cool.
maybe I use these, what are they called? Maybe I use the library for the 45 songs that I'm going to do very quickly and just be like click, click,
Actually, yeah,
click. And
yeah,
then the five, I rarely dive into the stuff on the right.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And then we can talk about it, um, or whatever your process wants to be. You can bounce off me if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
But that's actually
Okay.
good point, sort of
Let's get it
invalidating
done.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I see they got acoustic guitar, so I could do
yeah, exactly.
I could do
Yeah,
violin and ukulele through acoustic guitar.
exactly. You got distortion, reverb. Oh, I'd
Okay.
need to download those all, but you can
Okay.
just download them.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
Sweet.
just see what Echo Strum sounds like.
And you can see it's getting louder as I get closer.
See, these effects create the width that you may not need to do double takes.
Mm.
But that might work much nicer on a guitar if you did an
And with
actual.
voice, yeah.
There are loops here. There's this loop button. I don't know if I've got any, that I could have showed you with. I didn't think that, sorry.
Oh, no worries.
But it doesn't seem to, I don't think I have them loaded for GarageBand.
Oh, that's fine. This is this is probably a good start because it gives me every step in the process as like a quick description.
Yeah.
And it gives me some ways where I can do like a quick and dirty mix for the 45 songs I want to do and then go more in depth. So, and then, and it gives me homework. So
Mm.
I think good homework for me would be to see if I can get 5 songs. No, whatever. See if I
Any
can get
song, even one.
even one song and do it with what did we call that thing on the left? Oh, it was the
Click
library.
track.
Library of effects.
Yes. Yes. So I just want to show you that the library is here. If you go to this left-hand part of the
Okay.
screen, you
Okay.
can turn it on and off. You might
Okay.
want to see more here when you're editing, so you'd want more space. And
Yeah.
this can also be taken away at the bottom, but it's kind of nice to have them all, I think, there.
It's useful to have the bottom, I think.
Yeah, maybe not so much that one.
Yeah.
And I would try spread the waveform out as far as you can so you can really see in great detail.
Okay.
I wouldn't be working like this. I'd have
That's
it
tough.
stretched
Yeah.
out as far as I need it. It can zoom in quite wide.
Yeah.
So
Okay, cool.
one other thing about
Whew.
recording, I wouldn't record like the whole ukulele of the whole song all the way through. What we do is section by section. If I'm doing a guitar part, verse done, chorus done. Because if I'm making a mistake or I'm not strumming exactly how I want in the chorus, I can focus on that. So I would
Yeah.
at least split it down to each verse and chorus. I wouldn't try take the whole ukulele the whole way through as well.
Okay. That's good to know.
hmm Because you might spend fucking days trying to just get this perfect ukulele performance when people record note by note these days, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
That's
It's
the
so
lad's tip.
different. It's so different to like jamming or live
Hmm.
performance, hey?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
different.
live you just have to, man, even when I was accompanying my student, I just got into a daze and I slipped on the wrong fucking chord and I was like, fuck. But you just have to keep going. You
Yeah.
can't. I just looked up and acted normal and I was like, the rest of the song went fine. I was like,
Mm.
silly mistake, but I'm only human.
Yeah, yeah. As I used to tell my students, if you've got 80% in a maths or a biology test, you get an A. But if you play 80% of your notes right, it your performance sounds terrible. So you've
Yeah,
got to have this
exactly.
perfectionist idea of your work.
Exactly.
So if you're an
That's a really good
artist,
point. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
if you get 80% of your notes right, you're failing.
Yeah, it sounds muddy and terrible, and everyone knows you've messed up. And whereas if you get one chord wrong, that's okay. Like,
Yeah, nobody noticed, and I'm just so used to it. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
phase me anymore. When we lived in Zimbabwe, I was like shit scared of playing a single note on the piano because I was
yeah,
so afraid of playing it wrong. But
yeah,
now things are different. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely something in the thousands of hours of practice that
hmm.
gives you this comfort with like, ah, whatever, okay,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah, exactly.
or just muscle memory just gets better, and you know what you're doing more.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
I had to do you ever listen to Debussy's piano etudes?
yeah, gee,
Really nice. There's one that
yeah.
starts like a scale that goes din 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 din, din. And I had to like I learned them so well, man. I just memorized them. And in the exam, the examiners were like, I did the first two in the book, and they were like, which one do you want to play? And I was like, oh, I don't really mind, you know. I know them both really well. And they didn't know how to respond to that. And they were like, you choose. And I was like, okay, I like the first one more, so I'll play that one.
Wow.
And I just did it all from memory because it was muscle memory, like you said.
That's
Can't,
crazy. That's crazy.
mm, really
So
nice
your piano
etude.
level must be like, are you like licentiate level in the UK or like you can
I guess
teach?
so, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I was playing Chopin etudes, those are way harder.
It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy shit.
What the fuck were they smoking back then?
I know. Well, they had
Um,
long, dark winters. They had a lot of time, a
Superior skill.
lot of time on
Same,
their hands to do shit.
you know, I still think Mozart and Beethoven are really tough as well. People have this idea that they're easy, but they're not. Like,
They're not. They're not. Haydn is easy. There's something about Haydn
yeah,
that just sits easier.
mm,
He made music for the parlor. He made like chamber
I
music for
think so.
every person, you know,
Mm.
so that families could pick up that and play it after dinner or whatever.
Mozart and Beethoven were the rock stars being like, we're doing what we want.
Yeah, listen to me.
Do you know that scene in Amadeus where the emperor walks in and Mozart's like forbidden to have ballet, so he just has silence and he's like, well, we could just have ballet if the emperor allowed it again. So fucking funny. The emperor's like, are you just going to leave it silent? He's like, well, you've forbidden it. What else am I going to do?
Touche. I
And then he's
love
like, put it back in, put it back in.
it.
Oh, you should watch it again. It's so fucking funny.
I should watch it again. It's a good, like, I can see why they got awards and prizes and shit for that. It was very well done.
Mm,
That first scene where you meet Mozart and he's this arrogant, obstinate dickhead. And then you're like, oh
mm.
my God, that's Mozart. So well
This
done.
fool. Yeah.
So well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. I don't want to take up any more of your time because it's like after 9 for you. It's almost 10. So you need to chill.
Yeah, I think I must go chill now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Speaking definitely takes it out of me.
It's a lot, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Okay,
But I'm
cool.
glad I can help you and, you know, we can do it all again if you want. It's pretty tough to
Yeah.
retain everything at once, but
Yeah,
I
for
like your
sure.
idea of homework. Do do record the song in there and see how it goes.
Yeah, I'll play around with it for myself and try and bring something that I've mastered and play it to you, and then you can point out, you know, certain things,
Improvements.
tips. Yeah, totally.
Okay, great.
Um, and I'll also have a listen when I do my first song to this video as I go along and see if there's stuff that we can take for videos, or if it's sort of like, okay, no, let's just redo that from the beginning.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I
But
just thought I didn't speak about reference tracks, but that's like a severely advanced mastering technique, you know. I think you should master all this first, and then we can get onto that.
right, like when I started, like it's a good, they've got this course at this website called mastering.com, and it's clear
Yeah, I
they've
know
got,
it.
yeah, they got good teachers, but like I didn't
Mm.
want to pay a $300 course, you know? So
I'm in the wrong business.
yeah, I know. So, but when I looked for them on YouTube, they have the course, but it's just 6 hours long, and you've got to laboriously sit through 6 hours,
Okay.
and they don't cut it up, and they don't give you activities or the useful teachy stuff. Like,
Okay.
before you press play for the next bit, make sure you've got blah 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 set up blah 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 blah. They don't do that. They just give you one long video. And the
Okay.
first thing that he started out with was reference tracks. I was like, what the fuck,
Mm-mm.
dude?
That's not, no. I
Like,
don't
I get
EQ
the,
anything
yeah, I need to learn this shit
first,
first.
you know.
Yeah, like,
And the best first mastering engineers had no reference because they were the first fucking people doing it. So they were still
yeah,
good.
yeah,
They
yeah,
had a pair of
exactly.
ears, you know. You can
It's
tell when
so
it's good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting because, like, I remember walking into, halls and stuff, and you walk into the sound booth and you see the deck in front of you, and it's massive and there's way too
Mm,
much stuff. It's overwhelming.
mm,
And that's why I've never wanted to get into it, because it just looked like so many bits and bobs and buttons and dials.
It is, but can you believe that's all simpler than this? Because this is just everything, digital everything.
Mm,
You know, in what I've gone through with you today is kind of built into those desks. So they
yeah,
have little controls. You can do a bit of EQ, not as much as on this. You can do a bit
yeah.
of compression and that's it. Like, but yeah, I mean, it is a bit scary,
There's
daunting.
Well, yeah, it's like intimidating to look at a huge sound deck and to know where to start.
Mm,
So,
I get it. I get it.
yeah. So for my for my quick and dirty songs, should I record those verse, chorus like separately, or can I just do a whole thing, pop it in? Like, what would you recommend?
Oh, it depends. Like, if you really mean real quick and dirty and you don't really care, then yeah, just go the whole way
Just
through.
one take and be done with it. Yeah.
For the studio, the ones you want to like win a grant for, just separate sections, you know?
Okay, okay.
Mm.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay,
Because if it's
cool.
quick and dirty and you're just putting it on your social media and, you know, it's more for people in community, it's not really about how high quality it is it, you know?
No, it's not for the quality. Basically, what I want to do is just show people that I can play a variety and that I'm pretty good, you know?
Okay.
My
Mm.
singing is pretty good for these styles. My violin
Mm.
playing is pretty good for this. My ukulele is pretty good for that. So that
Nice.
when I'm applying for grants and stuff and I send people to my Instagram page, that they've got a whole variety and they go, oh yeah, Quentin's a musician.
Okay.
We
Oh,
can
that's a really good idea.
we can give him a bunch of money because like he's obviously doing stuff.
Okay, that's really good. Didn't even think of the marketing angle. Well done.
Yeah, yeah. Because I have
That's
to
really
sort of
good.
like, because I used to be a music teacher, and then I was so burned out by that. I didn't want to touch or appear or perform. And now I'm
Hmm.
feeling like, okay, ageism is biting at my heels with like corporate jobs, and
Mm.
musicians keep going and just get better and better and better. So
That's true.
I got
Mm.
to add that to my like
Bring
catalog
it
of,
back.
yeah, I got to
Okay,
bring it back and see if I can get some money from it.
nice. I think you'd
Yeah.
make money, especially if you market yourself that way.
Mm, yeah.
And, you can subtly send people down the right path when you put it in the captions. This is a live recording of me in the park,
Mm,
compared to this is a studio production we did. Just
that's
that
really
simple
good.
sentence leads the people down the right path you want them to go without you saying,
Yeah.
please forgive my live performance, or this was really highly edited in the studio, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, totally. Like ultimately, I want people to see that I have fun playing music.
Hmm.
Like even me recording on my front balcony, it's you can see that I'm enjoying the song that I'm playing. And I think that's the most important thing to carry across, not this perfectionism or
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
that will come with album number 2 and 3 and like album
exactly.
or even like my first 3 albums, I just want to be sort of very jazz standards, just showing a
Okay,
variety. Like
nice.
I'd like to be a jazz violinist like Stefan Grappelli, who
Okay.
he went into his 80s, still playing, Montreux Jazz Fest and
Mm.
Montreal and Berlin. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so let's see.
I think that's a good marker, to be honest.
Mm. It's a good market. And I was chatting with a friend of mine who's since become a program officer for Canada Council of the Arts. So
Okay.
what he does is he holds certain programs, like let's say Indigenous musicians. So he'll hold a
Mhm.
packet of money, and there'll be a jury that decides what goes where, and then he'll project manage that process with the Indigenous people that get the money. So he'll
Okay.
hold their hand along. And he told me that jazz violin is super rare in Canada. And it would be very interesting for a jury to have a jazz violinist
Okay.
because it's all like hip hop and R&B and rap. And the youngsters are all doing sort of like, yeah, they're making their beats and they're doing their thing, but I'm sort of taking it back to the 1920s to the 1950s and
Mhm.
really being like, I don't give a fuck. This is what I like to play. This is the stuff that makes me happy. And this is the stuff that you can improvise and get jazzy with. And I like that side of violin as well. So why not?
Nice. You know how to improvise, or you're good at improvising.
I'm pretty good at jazz improv, and I can make the
Nice.
violin do some crazy sounds and I
Oh,
let
cool.
like if I've had a bit of weed and a couple of drinks, I go a little bit like crazy with sounds and I don't mind
Okay.
that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
But like
Nice.
I go to jam sessions in the city like once a month or something. They're really fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. It's quite
Yeah.
unique.
I think so. And I think that way, at least the stuff that I submit will float to the top and people will talk about it in
Hmm.
an interesting, like they'll be like, oh my God, I checked him out on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. Whereas,
Exactly.
you know, young black LGBT rapper number 7,
Oh, yeah.
you're like,
It's
oh,
just,
okay, we only have so much money to give these ones, but
hmm It's just like, oh, okay, number 7, right? Yes,
mm,
but yeah, I think that's good. Do
yeah,
something different. You're right. Do something different.
yeah, exactly.
Everyone's a fucking rapper these days.
Like for real. And I get it. It's like the music is ground in people. Oh, I'm gonna stop recording because we're just chatting now.
Yeah,
Where's my recording?
I'll
But
stop screen sharing as well.
like I get that the black community started rap and hip hop and stuff because they didn't have the money for instruments. And
Mm,
so what you're gonna do, you're gonna start with your voice and you're gonna start with simple stuff that you can create on your laptop or whatever.
mm.
So it's so
I
weird. Once
just
you start recording on this, oh, here it is. They changed